Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Subhalakshmi Rao from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation, India, and we are continuing our UGC NET examination series for environmental science subject. And this is seventh part of Unit 8 Environmental Assessment, Management and Legislation. Here we are continuing the chapter 4 about protected areas under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So let's start. So here there are some sections under chapter 4 that we have discussed previously, and today we are continuing from 38th section, and it states that nobody can cause or set fire in a sanctuary or leave any fire burning in a sanctuary, so that they can endanger the wildlife or the plants inside the sanctuary. And in the next section, section 31, it states about prohibition of entry into sanctuary with weapon. It says this section is bigger so that nobody can harm any wildlife inside the sanctuary. So nobody can enter inside the sanctuary with any weapon, but the chief wildlife warden can allow the passage of any person inside the sanctuary with weapon if uh, prior entering they have the permission of carrying the weapons in writing. So then only they can allow the entry of a person inside the sanctuary with any weapon. Now, in the next section, section 32, it states about ban on use of injurious substances. So it states that nobody can enter inside the sanctuary with chemicals or explosives or any other substance that can harm the wildlife and the plants inside the sanctuary. So uh, that those persons are not allowed inside the sanctuary. So the next section, section 33, deals with the control of sanctuaries, and it tells about the chief wildlife warden being the main controller or has the authority to control these sanctuaries. And control means he or she shall manage and maintain the sanctuaries, and by maintenance it may be either construction of roads or any buildings or fences that are required for the protection of the sanctuary. And also there should be no commercial construction of buildings, like there should be no construction of hotels or zoos or safari parks that are not required inside the sanctuary. So but if they get the approval from the national board, they can build some zoos or safari parks inside the sanctuary. And they should also um, actually they should take the steps which will ensure mainly the safety of the wild animals inside the sanctuary. And also they may take the actions in the goodwill or in interest of the wildlife, and they have the authority to regulate, control, or prohibit any activities like grazing or movement of cattle inside the sanctuary for the welfare of the wildlife. So here the chief wildlife warden plays a major role in maintaining and managing the sanctuaries. Now, the next section, section 33A, deals with the immunization of livestock. As we know that people, those who have some rights to the area nearby the sanctuaries or area inside the sanctuaries, they will construct their homes in their lands which is near the sanctuaries, and they will also graze their cattle near in the nearby fields of sanctuaries. So there is a chance of um, but maybe transmission of any communicable diseases between the cattle and the wildlife found inside the sanctuary. So it is the duty of the chief wildlife warden to take measures such as immunization of the livestock nearby the sanctuaries. And here it's given that the area maybe within 5 kilometers of the sanctuary, they should any livestock found in that area should be immunized. So, and no person is actually allowed um, nearby the sanctuary or with their cattle that are not immunized. Now, in 33B, the it deals about the advisory committee. So here in the advisory committee, the the state government advisory committee should include chief wildlife warden and conservator of forests as its head, and also some members of state legislature, and within the area where the sanctuary is situated, also some representatives of Panchayat Raj institutions, and also some or two representatives from non-government organization, and 3 individuals active in the field of wildlife conservation, and one representative each from the departments dealing with home and veterinary matters. And these are all the advisory committee of the state government, and they all take decisions or measures uh, that are required for the conservation and management of the sanctuary. And but these things also require the participation of the local people who are present uh, around the sanctuary. So this is the advisory committee of the sanctuaries. Now the next section, section 34, registration of certain persons in possession of arms. So here it states that um, within 3 months of the declaration of any area as sanctuary, every person that are living inside the 10 kilometers circumference of the sanctuary and holding a license of possession of arms, so they are exempted from the provisions of the act of possessing arms, um, and for the grant of carrying any weapons, they have to apply before, and on the payment of some fee, they will be allowed to carry weapons inside the sanctuary. But mainly, actually, it's for protection of the wildlife, not for um, any other activities. So, and after receiving the application that is authorized by the chief wildlife warden, so they shall register their name under the um, chief wildlife warden, and but after 3 months of declaration, there will be no chance for getting license under the Arms Act 1959. And this is actually necessary because carrying a weapon is dangerous for not only those who are carrying but also nearby animal and people also. So now there are some rules for national parks also, like those in case of sanctuaries. So in section 35, for declaration of national parks, there are some rules. So when we have to declare any area as national park, whether it is within a sanctuary or not, so because of its ecological, faunal, floral, or geological or geological importance, those areas are required to be constituted as a national park, and it is done to protect the wildlife or the environment of that particular area. So here also the notification raised for declaring any area as national park shall define the limits of the area which is intended to be declared as a national park. And when we are intending to declare any area as a national park, um, we first there should be investigation and to see that whether any other people are there who have any claim or any right to the land nearby or within the national park, within the area which is to be declared as national park. So first there should be investigation, and after getting the final decision, then only they should go forward with declaring the national park. Next is when declaration, when investigation is completed and all. So so after investigation is completed, or if the claims of the person uh, who said they have the right to the area nearby a national park or within the national park, uh, the time period that is given for investigation and all, if it's over, then the claims or any um, uh, talk about rights in relation to the land is to be disposed by the state government, and then the state government will then publish a notification specifying the final limits of the area that is to be declared as national park, and after that they will declare that the area is uh, made into a national park. Then after declaring, there should be no alteration in the boundaries of the national park by the state government, except when national board will recommend to increase or decrease the boundaries, then only they can take any action against that. Then no person is allowed to destroy or remove any wildlife from the national park, and if they do so, or if they harm any animals or any forest produce inside the national park is taken here outside the limits, then without the permit of the chief wildlife warden, then there will be very strict action against them with some fines. And national parks are actually important because it helps in the better management of the wildlife, and preserving the gene pool of plants inside the park, as nobody is allowed inside or out without the permission of chief wildlife warden. And the tribal communities or the communities living inside the forests can use those forest produce or any other materials from the national park, but only for their personal use, not for the purpose of sale or distribution or commercial purpose. And next is there should be no grazing of livestock permitted inside the national park, and no cattle grazing or no cattle are actually allowed to enter inside the national park. And for the purposes of this section, in case of an area with whether within a sanctuary or not, the rights have been extinguished and the land has been vested in the state government under any act or otherwise. So here the state government will see through all the procedures to reward or give punishments to those who have committed some crimes. Now, Section 36 was about declaration of game reserve, which has been omitted by Wildlife Protection Amendment Act 1991. Now, the next section 36A, it deals with the declaration and management of a conservation reserve. So here, the state government, after communicating with the local people, can declare any area owned by the government, maybe adjacent to national park or sanctuaries, or those areas which are linked to some protected areas as a conservation reserve. And this is done to protect the flora, fauna, and the environment or and their habitat. So here the conservation reserves actually include any land owned by the central government, and any rules that are taken in case of sanctuary also applies in the case of conservation reserve here. This section 36B deals with the Conservation Reserve Management Committee. The state government actually forms a committee that is known as Conservation Reserve Management Committee to advise the Chief Wildlife Warden to conserve, manage, or maintain the conservation reserve. And the committee consists of a representative of Forest or Wildlife Department, and that person will be the member secretary of the committee, and one representative of each village panchayat is to be included in this committee, and three representatives from non-government organizations working in the field of wildlife conservation, and one representative each from Department of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry. So they all meet to form a committee of conservation reserve management, and the committee will regulate their own procedure, including the quorum. So in this section 36C, it talks about the declaration and management of community reserve. So here the state government has the right to declare any private or community land not comprised within a national park, sanctuary, or a conservation reserve as a community reserve, where the community or an individual has volunteered to conserve the wildlife and its habitat. And this is done to actually protect the flora, fauna, and the traditional and cultural values of the area. So here also all the rules that are applied in case of sanctuary is applied here also in the community reserve. And after the issue of the notification, no change in the land use pattern shall be made within the community reserve, and with the approval of the state government only, they can pass any resolution that includes management or any changes. Now the next one is 36D, Community Reserve Management Committee. So here the state government has the right to make a community reserve management committee, which is responsible for conserving, maintaining and managing the community reserve. And the committee actually consists of 5 representatives nominated by the village panchayat, or and if there is no presence of village panchayat, then the members of the gram sabha will be um, part of the committee also, and one representative of the state forest or wildlife department, under whose jurisdiction the wildlife the community reserve is located. And next, the community or the committee will also have the authority to implement the management plan for the community reserve and to take steps to ensure the protection of wildlife and their habitat inside the community reserve. The committee also can elect a chairman who shall be the honorary wildlife warden on the community reserve, and the committee will regulates on its own procedure. Now the next is section 37, declaration of a closed area. This was actually present before, but it was omitted by the Wildlife Protection Amendment Act in 2002. Now, next one is some rules for sanctuaries or national parks declared by central government. So previously, those slides which we were talking about were about the sanctuaries or national parks or conservation reserve or community reserves that are declared by the state government. But this is about the sanctuaries or national parks that are declared by the central government. So in section 38, it talks about the power of central government to declare areas as sanctuaries or national parks. So here, um, when the state government actually transfers any area under its control, um, not being an area within a sanctuary, to the central government, then the central government has the right to declare such area to be a sanctuary, and uh, all the rules that are applied to the sanctuary when they were declared by the state government applies in this case also. So here the central government can also declare some areas to be sub-sanctuary by or a national park, um, which are not previously declared as anything, or it was declared as sub-sanctuary, and that can be declared as national park by the central government now. And the provisions of section 35, 54 and 55 shall apply in relation to such national park as they apply in relation to the national park declared by the state government. And in relation to the sanctuary or national park declared by the central government, the powers and duties that were carried out by the chief wildlife warden is dismissed, and those are actually discharged by the director, um, and um, then all the power goes to the central government and to the legislature of the state, shall be constituted as the reference to parliament. So this is all from me today. Thanks for watching.